Welcome to the Carl Jackson Show podcast. This is your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. In the next segment, we're going to have Kurt Schlichter of townhall.com joining us. But guys, I'm here to give you comfort, to remind you, listen, we have to dig in. We have to stay in this fight. We are fighting a fight against socialists. That is what the Harris Wallace ticket is. A lot of people don't understand what socialism is. There's a lot of us political nerds that may be on X or some of these other social media sites, and we talk about politics and all this kind of stuff. You're going to have to take some of those social media posts and show them to your friends and family, because what the left is trying to do is they're trying to run a basement campaign for Kamala Harris, just like they did for Joe Biden, because they know that she is a complete and utter disaster for this nation. Tim Walz would be the same, the governor of Minnesota that she tapped as her VP this week. I want to play a clip that you guys have all seen. We've all seen this week of Tim Walz. And this is a guy that is not ashamed, to be called a socialist. Just 4 years ago, the Democrat Party made sure that they kicked Bernie Sanders. They did not want Bernie Sanders to be their standard bearer. So they rigged the race so that Joe Biden would become the nominee and so that Bernie Sanders wouldn't. Now you've got a socialist in Kamala Harris. You got a socialist in Tim Walz. These are far left-wing radicals, and they would absolutely destroy America as we know it. They would make America look like California. They would make America look like Minnesota. For those of you that are unfamiliar with Minnesota, remember that is the site of the George Floyd, or the state of the George Floyd riots. That state has not been the same since. You can hear or read and watch testimony online, and I'm sure many of you have this week, about life after the George Floyd riots in Minneapolis. It is not the same. As a matter of fact, I live in the state of Florida, and many of the new residents that are fleeing states, blue states in particular, one of the main states that are being fled is Minnesota. Many people from Minnesota are coming to Florida. The same is true with California. These states the left has destroyed. Just a reminder, this is Governor Tim Walz reminding us of who he is. Now, keep in mind, before we play this video, Gabe, this is the man that Kamala Harris chose. Kamala Harris chose Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota, an outright socialist. For one, she was too afraid to pick Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, which would have probably made a tougher race for Republicans. Quite frankly, the guy is competent, whether you agree with his politics or not. The guy is very smart. He's very intelligent. And he's very good on his feet. He speaks well, basically, but he's Jewish. So he was too Jewish and too smart for Kamala Harris. She was afraid that he would upstage her. But this is her pick. This is how you know that Kamala Harris is extremely radical. Not only did she just a few weeks ago participate in a coup that we no longer talk about with a sitting president of the United States of America, absolutely historical times. She's a straight up socialist. Here is Governor Tim Walz.
But we can get out there, reach out, make the case. And for one thing, don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness.
One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. That is the craziest thing, or one of the craziest things that I think I have ever heard. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. No, if the government knocks on my door and takes away what I've worked hard for, Mr. Walz, that is not neighborly. Neighborly is me volunteering the products that I worked hard to pay for, voluntarily giving them to friends, neighbors, family, or what have you. There is nothing neighborly about socialism, particularly when you have to destroy the middle class. The government gets fat and rich, and you get lots of bureaucracy, a lot of politicians like yourself that have a lot of power, but the middle class gets absolutely destroyed. That's what we've seen in places like Venezuela. That's what we've seen in Cuba, where literally you will have a rich class of people and everybody else lives in complete and utter squalor. And that's what these people want. This guy, Tim Walz, is a tyrant, and he's a tyrant. But let me say this. He fits Kamala Harris perfectly. They are a match made in HE double hockey sticks. But I do want to share this news with you. I know that they've been hiding in the basement. Earlier this week, J.D. Vance on the tarmac, on the same tarmac that now Vice President Kamala Harris' plane had landed on. He sat there. He went and questioned some of the reporters, took questions from them, asked them basically, and I'm paraphrasing, why they aren't, asking tough questions of her, a lady that could potentially lead the nation. And we all know the answer. They're leftists. The media are, but they also know what we all know, that she's a complete, utter disaster. But they are so power hungry. They're so willing or in need of virtue signaling, of feeling moral, since probably many of them don't go to church. They're willing to let this lady slip into the White House, despite what we've seen with the Biden-Harris administration. Nothing has changed. This lady is a complete and utter disaster. Joe Biden has been a vegetable, basically, for the majority of his presidency. We all know it. Where's Joe Biden? Nobody is seeing Joe Biden. No one's paying attention to Joe Biden. And I guarantee you that's what's been happening all along behind closed doors. Yet we're seeing it now because the left is ready to move on from him. And they don't want you to remember that Kamala Harris is tied to Joe Biden. Everything that Joe Biden believed, Kamala Harris believed. Open borders. Kamala Harris believes in open borders. Medicare for all, which is socialized medicine. You think you have bad medical care now in the United States? You think medical care is getting worse inside of the United States? The health insurance companies made out big time. But as far as getting a decent doctor nowadays, it's getting extremely difficult to find one that you like and that you want to stick with. And when you do, in order to get into the doctor's office, it takes much longer. And that's just with Obamacare. And this is a lady that wants Medicare for all. Now, everyone's in a panic. And I got to admit it, for a short period of time, I was too. We're going to have Kurt Schlichter on to talk about this because he reminds us that we don't need to be in a panic. We're starting to see Kamala Harris peak. Now, does that mean, right, there's going to be ebbs and flows, so we should not let our feet off the gas? Does that mean that Trump and Vance are going to run away with this? No, not necessarily, but it does mean that we don't have to be panicked. Eventually, Kamala Harris is going to show her true self, and when she does, she's going to be a disaster. Right now, you have Governor Tim Walz. I believe that one of the stories that is sticking to him the most is this story of stolen valor, where he claimed to be, I believe, a commander, sergeant major, if you will. And I may be mixing up those words of the National Guard in Minneapolis. Many people have come out against that. Kurt Schlichter is going to speak to that as well. But the military community is not very happy with this guy. And listen, I'll be honest with you. He's been an effective bulldog, or pit bull, if you will, for Kamala Harris. But once people find out more about his record, and they will, as long as what you're seeing on social media, you make sure that you share it with a family member. If you're just watching it and sharing it on social media, we're probably existing in a bubble. But remember some of the things that we're fighting for. Remember, just a couple of short weeks ago, there was a few short weeks ago, there was an RNC convention where the Trump-Vance ticket was on top of the world. And nothing's changed. The issues haven't changed. There's going to be a lot of emotion. There's going to be a lot of ebb and flow. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs. But we still want to seal the border because we don't believe that illegal aliens should be allowed to invade our country. That's part of the RNC platform. We still want to carry out the largest deportation operation in American history. Unlike Tim Walz, Governor Tim Walz, and I presume VP Kamala Harris, we don't want to, we don't want to give illegal aliens driver's licenses. All right. We don't want to compete for jobs and housing and some of our middle class and lower income communities. We should not be competing for jobs and resources and school or teacher time at school. Your children shouldn't be with illegal aliens. No other country in the world will do this. Kamala Harris is talking about bringing down inflation. She spoke at the Pennsylvania rally about how she would bring down inflation and she would go after these corporations basically that are overcharging. She doesn't have a clue of how money works. This lady has had government jobs all the way along, and she has no clue what it's like to live in the real world. She doesn't understand that when the government spends too much money, voila, we get inflation. There's too much money out there, too much money chasing too few goods. We want to make America the dominant energy producer in the world again, by far. Kamala Harris doesn't want to do that. If you want to bring down inflation, that is the first thing that you do. She is absolutely clueless because she is wed, and so is Governor Tim Walz, to this fantasy that is this global warming, this climate change, man-made climate change hoax, which is basically just about fear in order to make you scared, in order to make you vote for Democrats, because you believe that they care about you more than Republicans do. But nothing could be further from the truth. Remember, all Democrats have are fear and anger. That's all they have. We want to stop outsourcing and turn the United States into a manufacturing superpower. I'm okay with trade, but I don't want to be losing on trade deals. And I completely understand Trump's decision to fight that. We want large tax cuts for workers and no tax on tips. The government doesn't deserve the money that you work hard for, especially when they're spending this country into oblivion. We'll be back with Kurt Schlichter. Stay tuned. Listen, guys, this show is brought to you in part by Priority Gold. Economists warn that massive tax hikes could devastate your IRA and your 401k account as the stock market braces for impact. With inflation on the rise and global uncertainty looming, it's clear why central banks and savvy Americans are turning to gold as well. In times like this, Proverbs 21:20 reminds us to preserve what we've built. Right now, that wisdom points us towards gold. If you haven't had your eye on gold, time to make it a priority. My name is Carl Jackson, and I urge you to call my friends at Priority Gold to find out how they can help you diversify your savings with physical gold and silver. Call 1-800-405-GOLD or visit PriorityGold.com/golden for a free gold info guide. Plus, see if you qualify for free shipping and storage. Act now to get your portfolio working for you while the market is golden. Again, call 1-800-405-GOLD to speak with a gold specialist or visit PriorityGold.com/golden to learn more. That's 1-800-405-GOLD. Tell them Carl sent you. Hello and welcome to the Carl Jackson Show podcast. We've got a great show for you, a great guest lined up for you today. I know you guys all know him. I know that you guys love him. None other than Kurt Schlichter, always stirring up controversy. The left can't stand him. The right absolutely loves him. And I absolutely love reading his work and listening to him whenever he's on radio. Kurt Schlichter, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Carl.
Absolutely. Okay, so Kurt, there's a couple of columns that I was reading, and I wouldn't recommend this to anybody as I was driving of yours, but I like reading your stuff. It makes me laugh. It's hard punching, and there's a lot of common sense to it. And one of the articles that you've written recently is that Kamala Harris has peaked. Explain to us why you believe that.
I think she's essentially a dumb person, not very accomplished. She seems to agree. She's afraid. She makes decisions out of fear and bigotry in the case of Josh Shapiro. She didn't want someone who was Jewish, and she didn't want someone who would outshine her. Not wanting someone who outshines her is that really limits her options.
This is true.
No, she's just an unimpressive person. There's such a thing as the imposter syndrome. She's the ultimate imposter. And she lacks confidence. That's why she put Tim Walz. He wasn't going to ever be able to challenge her. And I think he probably sucked up to her the same way he sucked up to generals to become a command sergeant major, sort of. When he apparently had, few, if any, military skills.
Yeah, I mean, this lady, in my opinion, is an absolute disaster. But what I'm concerned about is that the AstroTurf seems to be working, but you believe it's wearing off. The polls seem to be plateauing. You see that even with, or you believe that even with Tim Walz added on these. I mean, this guy makes Bernie Sanders look like a piker, Kurt.
Well, I think Tim Walz walked into a buzzsaw of us veterans right now. He's a stolen valor guy, and us veterans have called him out. And that's the story today, that he is a fraud, and he's really disgraceful. I have not, obviously as a retired colonel, I know a lot of veterans. I talk to a lot of veterans, and we're all kind of disgusted by him. I was afraid she was going to pick Josh Shapiro.
Me too.
But I didn't think she would because I think he was, potential competition. Look, the thing about this race is it's always going to be close. America's a 50-50 country. And Joe Biden was losing people who were not going to vote for Trump, but who couldn't vote for a guy who's seen it. They love their country. They're just not, Republicans. So they're just not going to vote for Biden. Kamala comes in and they're like, wow, let's give her a try. Let's see what she's about. And of course, you got the whole media doing 24/7. Kamala is so brat, which I didn't know was an adjective, but that's because I'm old. And I think that will last for a while. The people have come back and the polls have tightened. Trump has not gone down. She's gone up. The polls were always tight. We're where we were right before the debate. I think Trump has a small advantage, at least in the polls. But, I don't think she's going to wear well on people. She's not giving any kind of interview. She's not saying anything. She does these highly scripted events. And eventually people are going to say, okay, she's brat. I get it. Great. But I've got to take a mortgage out to get my groceries. Right. What's she going to do about that? And then it's going to be Trump's a convicted felon. And they're going to go, yeah, but how about a little more? And she doesn't have more. There's no more with Kamala.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great point. I mean, obviously, they've got to keep her in hiding, keep her in the basement for another 100 days. You don't believe they'll be able to succeed in doing that?
I don't think so. They will give it the old college try. But I think people, look, I lost in the first 2 days of this week, I lost as much money as I made my first year as a lawyer.
Wow.
Okay. If everybody else is proportional to that, we're all hurting. And okay, she's brat, but I've got to retire someday. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think people want some real answers. And there's a lot of things going on. Obviously the economy's on the verge of cratering. We could have a massive terrorist attack. We're about to have a war in the Middle East. There's a lot of stuff going on. And people are like, yeah. It's not all fun and games. And frankly, it wasn't that bad under Donald Trump. Trump, for his part, I think has learned a lot of lessons from 2016. Yeah, we got a lot of the bow tie conservatives freaking out because he was mean to Brian Kemp. All right. That hasn't happened in weeks. But you know what happened? We've had one of these in week. In 2016, we had that every day. Trump is exponentially more disciplined now. Now, he's never going to be super disciplined. Okay, he's Trump.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, that bothered me. I'm not going to lie to you, Kurt. I was like,
I didn't like it.
There's just no need to do it. But at the same point, you're right. It's not something that he's been doing frequently, and he was amazingly disciplined. I want to go back real quickly, Kurt. I mean, we've witnessed an assassination attempt on national TV. We've watched or been, we've witnessed the soft coup, if you will, of a sitting president of the United States. And those stories seem so distant now. I mean, obviously, we get new information every day. Does this? I mean, this boggles my mind. Am I the only one? Do you think voters are? This is just insane.
Yeah, it is insane. But it is what it is, and we've got an election to fight, and every single day we need to play like we're 10 points behind. Like I said, I think we're ahead, but if you're a major candidate on a major ticket, you can win the election. Remember how Trump had 10% chance to win in 2016?
Right.
You know what happens one time in 10 when you got a 10% chance?
Yeah.
We can't take anything for granted. We've got to beat these two communist losers, get Donald Trump back in there, and get America back on its feet.
How concerned are you? 3.5 minutes left in this block. How concerned are you that we are going to see a major war break out in the Middle East before the election? And I'll be honest with you, Kurt, I'm very concerned about even especially after the election, no matter who gets in, because I think the world is in total chaos. And obviously, Netanyahu right now has to kill as many of these terrorists as possible in the event that a Kamala Harris presidency does occur.
No, I agree. I think that the Biden administration is just absolutely disastrous, totally basically displace the United States as the leading power in the world. We are weak. We are incompetent. We are feckless. The mainstream media won't tell you, but one of our bases in Iraq, I add as a tangent, why are we still in Iraq? One of our bases in Iraq got attacked, and we had 4 or 5 critically injured soldiers and contractors. Americans are getting hurt. Americans have gotten killed. We saw what happened in Jordan. We saw what happened in Kabul. This isn't a joke, but the Democrats treat it as one. They find foreign policy a hassle because it interferes with their accumulation of power domestically.
What is the best way, in your opinion, for Donald Trump, the Trump Vance team, to be able to frame Harris and Wallace? Is obviously Wallace is out as the attack guy. Kamala Harris is trying to hide. I love what JD Vance did on the tarmac. I believe that was earlier today. Yep. So anyway, what's the best way to frame these people that sticks, in your opinion?
Well, first of all, there are a lot of kind of bow tie conservatives that we should talk about policy. Look, I like facts. I'm a trial lawyer, though. Facts support the verdict. They aren't what you get is the verdict. A verdict, a decision is an emotional response. You have to persuade. You remember when there was that giant thing about Trump pointing out that Kamala Harris sometimes presented herself as Indian, sometimes presented herself as black.
Right.
And she's questioning her race. I don't know what that means. He's questioning her authenticity.
Yes.
Because she's something different to every audience. Look at Donald Trump. If he goes to a farm, if he goes to a factory, if he goes to a WWE match, he's always dressed as Donald Trump. And Donald Trump dresses as a rich New Yorker without $10,000 suits and a very long red tie. Yeah. Donald Trump is the ultimate in authenticity. Now, maybe you don't like him, but he's not fake. He is who he is. She's not. And that's a message that you have to get out there, because it tells you this is a person I can't trust. And it's been very effective. I remember, that obnoxious CNN segment where they went to that barbershop and there were several black guys there. And they said, what do you, and they said, well, the black guys took over the interview, which is amazing. And they were like, well, do you think she's black? And the guy said, I'm not really sure. Okay. These guys, suddenly they're low information voters. Baloney. They've got all the information they need.
Yeah.
And they got it from Trump because they're not getting it from the media. And they were able to come to a decision about what's important to them, which is authenticity. Is she lying to me? Is she running a scam? Is this somebody I can trust? Does she know who she is? These are important questions. This isn't a sideshow. These are key issues. Donald Trump is told he can't talk about these things. Baloney.
Kurt, let's hold it until after the break. You're listening to the Carl Jackson Show with my guest Kurt Schlichter. We'll be right back. You've asked and MyPillow has listened. They're finally bringing you the most requested offer ever. Right now, you can get the queen size premium MyPillow for only $19.98. MyPillow is made with patented adjustable fill. It adjusts to your exact individual needs regardless of your sleep position. It helps keep your neck aligned and holds its shape all night long, so you get the best sleep of your life. But that's not all. You get their 6-piece kitchen or bath towel sets for only $25. The brand new mattress topper for as low as $69.98. And the famous MyPillow bed sheets for as low as $25, and so much more. Go to MyPillow.com or give them a call at 800-858-0263. Again, 800-858-0263. Use the promo code CARL, C-A-R-L, to get huge discounts on all MyPillow products, including the premium queen size MyPillow that is only $19.98. That's the lowest price ever. Don't delay. Order today. Use promo code CARL at checkout. All right, welcome back to the Carl Jackson Show. I'm joined by my guest, Kurt Schlichter. You can find his articles at townhall.com. Also, you have a book series out, Kurt. So tell people about your book series and also tell people where they can find you online.
Well, I have the People's Republic books, the Kelly Turnbull novels of America Torn Apart and Conservative Against Leftists. And they're a lot of fun, and there's 8 of them, and people love them. I also have The Attack, which is a new novel about a terrible terrorist attack right now, right here. And it's a very scary book. And it's been very successful. So check out The Attack, check out the Kelly Turnbull books. Obviously, my town hall columns every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday.
All right. So, Kurt, now let me ask you. We were talking about Kamala Harris before the break, Donald Trump, and mentioning at that the National Association of Black Liberal Journalists, that Kamala Harris, as far as he had known, she had identified as Indian. And a lot of people, get crazy about that. And I knew that the media obviously would go after him like they always do. But I think there's something that people need to understand, in especially Republicans in the Black community. I mean, about the Black community, because we're fighting a different type of fight that I think Republicans aren't used to, Kurt. And when Trump mentioned that, and we were speaking a little bit offline, doesn't that touch on the character of Kamala Harris, the authenticity of Kamala Harris? Because Black people in the Black community, especially if the Democrat Party are looking to siphon away Black votes from Trump, they want to know if this chick is fake or if she's real. And that's a serious question.
Well, look, she's out there saying I'm this today and I'm that yesterday. And Donald Trump's the same guy all the time. Same suit, same attitude, no matter where you are, what the weather is. Whether he's at a farm or a factory, he's always the same guy. So he's super authentic. She's not, and that's because she lacks confidence in herself and because she really doesn't have any, I don't think she has any center. And people pick that up. And I'm sick of the media telling people what they can and can't think is important. Those guys in the barber shop got asked a question. Well, they took over the interview, which is amazing. But they gave an answer, and they think, oh, well, that's the wrong answer. You have to think this way. Who the hell are you to tell anybody what to think? You know, you know who I speak for? I speak for Kurt Schlichter. I don't speak for anybody else. Hell, I don't even speak for myself all the time. I don't see why anybody thinks they should speak for anybody else. People have a right to decide what they think is important. If you think authenticity is important, then it's important to you. If you think her romantic life is important, then you should talk about her romantic life instead of listening to people. Well, that's not important. Well, you tell me what's important. I'll decide.
Or if her husband's romantic life.
Wow.
Man, I think that took a lot of the moral arguments off the table for Kamala Harris. If there is going to be a debate, and I suspect there will, because if it is true that these polls are starting to plateau for Kamala Harris, she's going to have to debate Trump. If you're Trump, would you go ahead and go on one of these liberal networks again, or do you stick to your guns and say, I'm going to do Fox?
I don't know. Donald Trump is not a guy to walk away from a fight. So I think he'll probably do it. I don't know what I'd do. It certainly worked out for him well with Biden. She will do nothing but prepare for like 2 weeks. And the media will, ignore her absence. I don't know. I think Trump should debate her if he thinks it's going to be advantageous to him. And if it isn't, he shouldn't. He has no moral obligation to debate her. Frankly, I think she would prefer not to debate if she could at all.
I agree. Totally agree. I think she failed her first test, Kurt, by picking this guy, Tim Walz. And obviously...
Well, that was her second test. She failed the California bar exam.
Whoa, that is absolutely right. I completely forgot about that. All right. So she failed her second test. Do you think, is this guy to the left of her? Is she to the left of him? Okay, wow.
They're both far on the left. He's just terrible. Putting aside his military stuff, which I can't do, and 14 million American vets can't do. This guy's just appalling. Just stolen valor, ditching his guys. It's gross.
Tampons in boys' restrooms.
Oh, the tampons in the boys' restrooms, idiocy. It's just stupid stuff. You got a guy like Josh Shapiro. And again, I don't like Josh Shapiro as a politician. I'm not a Democrat.
Sure.
But he's not a hard left guy. He apparently is fairly efficient with administration. And he gets things like roads fixed. I was concerned about having Josh Shapiro on the ticket. I thought he was a really good candidate. Not really good, but good candidate. But apparently, Kamala can't take competition, and the Democrat Party can't take Jewish people.
Yeah,
it's disgusting.
It is amazing. I mean, they are openly anti-Semitic, and I agree with you. I literally saw a photo of Josh Shapiro on stage the other night at the rally, the American flag behind him. The guy just looked presidential. And I'm not a. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We got to be objective. Okay. Neither of us want to vote for the guy, but I think he is an effective politician.
Sure.
Who I disagree with on a lot of substance. And I'm glad he got sidelined simply because it makes it easier for us to win. But it says something terrible about one of the two major parties is now deciding who can be on the ticket because of race or religion or ethnicity or other factors like that. And that's not the kind of country I want to live in.
Do you think that the Democrat Party will ever be held account for the 14 million voters that they gave the middle finger to as they took over? And obviously they've been lying for Joe Biden forever. I mean, he's nowhere to be found, but I'm sure that's been his presidency for most of the time. But do you think people will be upset about that at some point? That's just crazy to me.
I think the Democrats have decided among themselves that something had to be done and they had to swallow hard and do it. I don't think it doesn't strike me as a particularly effective line of attack on turning Dems. And I probably wouldn't pursue it. There's so many lines of attack.
Yeah.
And again, if somebody else figures out a way to use it effectively, I'm all for it. My purpose, my goal is to get the most effective attacks to run down Harris and Wallace. And right now, the stolen valor stuff is really resonating against our military guys. I mean, it's hard. I think it's hard for civilians to understand why we're so fixated on this. And again, if he had just been a normal guy and just had served his time, we'd be like, well, maybe he wasn't Rambo, but hell, I wasn't Rambo. I ran a car wash. You don't have to be. You just got to show up, do your job, take care of your troops, and don't brag about it, and don't be like thinking you're awesome. He milked it, and then he said he was in a war when he wasn't. You don't get to do that, okay? No, these are things you earned. Of course, he's a communist, so he wouldn't earn anything. Doesn't believe in earning.
Yeah, it's socialism is neighborly as far as he's concerned. But I think you're right. I mean, honestly, I can look at the riots and how he didn't step in Minneapolis and let his city burn and businesses were destroyed, jobs were lost, people of all ethnicities lost jobs. Horrible. But you're right. This stolen valor issue. I have some family members that are in the military. That is a big deal, and that is going to impact a lot of people, especially in the states, Kurt. These the blue wall. Particularly, you get a lot of soldiers out of that area.
There are a lot of veterans out there, and gosh, Carl, it's so easy. All you got to do is be honest. Yeah, I got called up. I went over to Italy. I guarded, an Air Force base for a while. And I came home. Oh, okay. All right, you got to go to Italy. All right, next. What else do you got? No one to care. But no, it's suddenly there I was.
It's Kurt. We have about a minute and a half left. Can you paint a picture? I was born and raised in Los Angeles, but I moved in the mid 90s. It was still okay then, not great, but it was okay. Can you paint a picture in just over a minute of what it's like living under the authoritarian that is Gavin Newsom, and what America could look like if Kamala Harris and Wallace get into the White House?
Well, I got to tell you, I live in one of the beach cities, and they don't let the consequences of their own communist beliefs affect here. If you are ragged looking or don't look like you fit in, the cops are going to pull you over if you come in this neighborhood. So I am surrounded by a bunch of fairly affluent liberals who do not have to live with the consequences of their action. Everybody else has to live with the consequences of their action. Crime running rampant, fentanyl, hobos, and it's outrageous because I grew up under when California was this beautiful golden paradise. And that's the California I remember. That's the California I want back.
Man, no doubt. And honestly, we want an America back where it's
Yeah.
not equitable, but it's equal. You go out and you work hard, you work for your
Boom.
dreams. You
Exactly.
can succeed. All right, Kurt Schlichter, man, it has been always a pleasure talking to you. I've interviewed you a couple times. Always love doing it. Real quickly, 10 seconds. Where can people find you again?
Go find me at Twitter, Kurt Schlichter, and then find me on Amazon for my Kelly Turnbull People's Republic books and The Attack. Also, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday are my town hall comments.
All right, we'll be back. All right, welcome back to the program. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Kurt Schlichter. Make sure you find him online. Kurt Schlichter, always a great read as well at townhall.com. Listen, guys, this show is brought to you in part by Priority Gold. Economists warn that massive tax hikes could devastate your IRA and your 401k account as the stock market braces for impact. With inflation on the rise and global uncertainty looming, it's clear why central banks and savvy Americans are turning to gold as well. In times like this, Proverbs 21:20 reminds us to preserve what we've built. Right now, that wisdom points us towards gold. If you haven't had your eye on gold, time to make it a priority. My name is Carl Jackson, and I urge you to call my friends at Priority Gold to find out how they can help you diversify your savings with physical gold and silver. Call 1-800-405-GOLD or visit PriorityGold.com/golden for a free gold info guide. Plus, see if you qualify for free shipping and storage. Act now to get your portfolio working for you while the market is golden. Again, call 1-800-405-GOLD to speak with a gold specialist or visit PriorityGold.com/golden to learn more. That's 1-800-405-GOLD. Tell them Carl sent you. Okay, now let's get back to this issue. Guys, we're still fighting for the same things, and the race is still it's a close race. The race has basically returned to the race that it was before the disastrous debate, where Trump had a slight edge, if you will, but the race was tight, and the race was probably always going to be tight until that disastrous debate, where I believe the Democrat Party intentionally set Joe Biden up so that the world could see that he was a vegetable, because they wanted to move on and go with the Kamala Harris or even someone else, frankly. But Kamala Harris managed to organize the delegates relatively quickly, which leads me to believe that there was already a plan in place. But that's the story, I guess, for another day. But again, the race has not changed much, and these are the things that I just want to remind you that we're fighting for and also fighting against. Just looking at the platform, again, large tax cuts. We want to defend our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and our fundamental freedoms, including the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion, and the right to keep and bear arms. We want to prevent World War III. And guys, I got to tell you, frankly, I believe that we are on dangerous ground right now, especially because we don't seem to have a commander-in-chief. We definitely don't have Kamala Harris is just completely incompetent at her job. There's no doubt about it. I don't trust Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin or Secretary of State Anthony Blinken. These guys are too weak. Vladimir Putin knows it. Xi Jinping knows it. Nicolas Maduro knows it. And all of these dictatorial leaders, Kim Jong-un, all of these dictatorial leaders know it. We have a very weak administration, and that makes us vulnerable. Frankly, I am absolutely glad that Benjamin Netanyahu and the IDF are doing everything they can to eliminate the threats that are attempting to destroy Israel. Iran is an existential threat. And it's funny how now they have billions and billions of dollars at their disposal, billions of dollars that they did not have under the Trump administration, but now they do. This administration, the Biden-Harris administration, are not only a threat to America, they've been a threat to the world. The Kamala or the Harris-Walz administration, I believe, would be even worse. These people are both radicals. They're socialists. Even in Joe Biden's demented state, there was a period of time where, at least on some issues, he would try to act sensible. These people will not do that. They are going to run to the left. They are leftists. But the good news is we can still win. Remember, in Tim Walz, everything that Tim Walz has done, remember that Kamala Harris approves of, all right? Allowing illegal aliens, again, to get driver's licenses, gave 55,000 formerly incarcerated felons the right to vote. made recreational marijuana legal in the state, imposed stricter gun laws, the red flag laws, made abortion a fundamental right, even to the point of birth. All right, that is just crazy, scary, and extreme. Preserved child transgender surgeries, where you can get in trouble as a parent if you don't go along and allow your child to become the sex that they're not, especially in at an age where they're completely vulnerable. Signed a bill to put tampons in boys' bathrooms. And don't forget the stolen valor that Kurt Schlichter talked about. And again, I hope that this message resonates for all of you that are listening. Again, if you're watching shows like this, liberals and moderates probably aren't. So you're going to have to share videos. You're going to have to share stories. That's the way that we defeat the mainstream media, the corporate media that are absolutely doing their best to usher Kamala Harris and Tim Walz into the White House. We cannot allow that to happen. You talk about Tim Walz talking about he's a governor for the people, basically. Well, when he let Minneapolis burn, who do you think was impacted most? Who do you think was impacted? You think it was, obviously business owners were, but who occupied the jobs of those business owners? This guy is a complete and utter disaster, completely woke. His wife, if you guys watched my podcast earlier this week, talked about how she opened up her windows to smell the fumes of the burning rubber tires. These people are absolutely insane. They were COVID tyrants, forcing schools to shut down, forcing restaurants and churches to shut down, indoor mask mandates. And we all know that was a complete and utter joke. Nursing home deaths were very high under Tim Walz's administration. Does Kamala Harris care about that? Did she vet that? No, she didn't. But the good news is more of this stuff is going to begin to be exposed. We have a very short period of time to do it. So there does have to be discipline on Trump's part and the Trump campaign. There's no doubt about it. They're going to have to hit Kamala Harris on these issues wherever they can. They're going to have to go wherever they can to get media. If the mainstream media won't pay attention, they're going to have to find venues and areas just like J.D. Vance did earlier this week, going on the tarmac, or as he landed on the tarmac, confronting, and in a very nice way, but confronting the journalists, quote unquote, that were there on the tarmac that were willing to ask him questions, but not willing to ask Kamala Harris questions. And the reason is very simple, in my opinion. If they were to get tough with questions, they probably would lose their jobs. But it's going to take courage for a lot of these people to stand up. But if you want to go back to cheap gas and affordable groceries, you want to go back to a world and an America that's safe, an America that's energy dominant, an America where free speech is allowed, then there's no other option except to vote for Trump Vance. I mean, there's just no other option. The ending the weaponization of government, we saw early. We saw this assassination attempt of the former president of the United States. I don't know how we move past that so quickly, but we have. There was an article that appeared earlier this week, and I want to bring this up. The whistleblower revealed, whistleblowers of the Secret Service revealed that the lead agent during the Trump rally was inexperienced. No IDs were checked in areas, restricted areas. That's insane, guys. I've been in a restricted area before at a Trump rally as part of the media. IDs were checked, and not only that, security was tight at the time. This was while he was still in the presidency. This was a 2020 rally that he had in the Central Florida area. And I mean, it was buttoned down. It was tight, and you couldn't leave. You couldn't go anywhere. I had to use the restroom, and it was not fun. It was not fun, but they didn't let me go anywhere. And trust me, they checked IDs. This is absolutely crazy. It is easy to go the way of conspiracy theory. But guys, remember again who we are trying to defeat. These are people fundamentally. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, they are socialists that want to destroy America as we want it. They don't believe in equality. They believe in equity. They believe in taking your stuff to give to people that they believe should own it, despite the fact that you worked hard for it, and despite the fact that government doesn't have money except the money that we give to them via taxation or money that they print, which they did, and caused this insane inflation that we're still experiencing today. This is absolutely insane. It makes it really difficult. It makes it really difficult to live under this administration. So, guys, listen, again, it is time to stand up. The good news is the polls are leveling out. The race is about this, or the race is about the same as it was before the debate. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to find it in my stack of brilliance, but do not have time before the clock runs out. Oh, Byron York wrote in the Washington Examiner, irrational exuberance. Has the race really changed? And he says it has now been 2 weeks since Joe Biden dropped out of the race and VP Kamala Harris became the presumptive Democrat nominee. It's always hard to get a quick handle on public reaction to a huge event like that. But after a couple of weeks, the news has had time to sink in with voters, and it's time to start looking at some new polling. And bottom line is, when you start looking at the polling, like white voters, in July, Trump led Biden 57-42. Now Trump leads Harris 55-44. Among black voters, Biden led Trump 73-24 in July. Harris leads Trump 81-18. 18 is still a great number for President Trump if that holds true, particularly in the swing states. Among Hispanic voters, Harris's position has not improved. Biden led Trump 52-45% among Hispanic voters. And now Harris leads Trump 52-47, a slight increase for Trump. Guys, all we have to do is get out there, tell the people the truth about these socialists, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, Stolen Valor Tim Walz, Tampon Tim, and Communist Kamala, and we can win this thing, but we got to stay in the fight. Until next time, don't grow worry, doing good. God bless you.